Luxury housing for all. Lessons from Vienna. How would you like to spend just 20 to 25% of your income on rent in luxury housing near work in a neighborhood where everything you need is just a walk away? That's the way the residents of Vienna live. Vienna's high standard of living and its luxury-style housing for all has attracted the world's attention and even become a tourist attraction. Media outlets hail its success, and researchers study it for lessons to apply elsewhere. Public officials, as well as others with an interest in housing, architecture, and design, flock there each year looking for ideas. Even HUD, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, praises Vienna's housing as an effective and innovative model for providing superior, affordable housing to the city's residents. For many, housing is the largest household expense. Its rising cost has affected the life course of millions, leaving many with little left over for other basic necessities, adding to the stress of everyday life. Others have been pushed out of their homes, living without permanent shelter in trying conditions. The struggle for housing has become a global crisis, raising questions about how and why it is happening. Vienna's approach to providing housing for all provides some insight into the causes and solutions of the housing crisis that affects so many across the world. Vienna uses the term social housing to refer to the housing it builds. Social housing refers to a range of housing types that are rented or owned but are subsidized and regulated by the government. And it's based on three basic assumptions. The market alone cannot provide housing for low and middle income people. The government must play a major role in the creation, maintenance, and renovation of housing. The housing market must be strongly regulated by the government to make it work at all. What does social housing look like in Vienna? Well, it's a mix of things. Apartment houses owned and run by the government, limited equity co-ops owned by residents, subsidized apartment houses built through partnerships between the government and the developers. Who lives in social housing, you ask? Okay, I'll tell you. Nurses, teachers, construction workers, young professionals, doctors, lawyers, people from various social classes, from low to upper middle class. How is it created? Vienna's social housing was first built and owned and regulated by the government. But since 1980, most social housing has been created through partnerships between the government and the real estate industry. Public-private partnerships account for half of Vienna's social housing. Limiting the profits of private developers ensures that some of the profits from completed housing projects are reinvested in the construction of more new affordable housing. The reinvestment of these funds helps in maintaining an adequate supply of housing for most residents. Now, how does the government work with developers to build social housing? Well, first, the city buys the land for housing, giving it control over how it is developed. Then, it invites developers to submit proposals to develop it, which are evaluated on the quality of the housing as well as the cost and rent levels they're going to set. Creating competition among developers lowers costs and results in higher quality housing. Once a developer is chosen, the city sells the property to the developer at a price that is cost effective. The city also provides low interest loans and tax incentives to the developer as well. But half of the units must be kept affordable for lower income groups, while the other half can be rented at higher rates to higher income groups. Who pays for it? Well, the short answer is everyone. The government subsidizes its construction and maintenance. Limits are placed on the profits real estate industry can make on housing and construction. The remaining profits are reinvested in more new social housing. And on a national level, Austrians pay only a 1% tax for social housing. What impact does social housing have on people's lives? I'm glad you asked. Because people from all walks of life live in social housing, it creates more diverse, integrated, and stable neighborhoods. It frees people from the stress of paying too much for housing and not enough left over for other necessities. As one resident quoted in a New York Times article said, if people don't have to struggle all day long to survive, if your life is made safe, at least in social conditions, you can use your energy for more important things. Can social housing be found in other places in the world? Of course. Social housing is found in other places like Europe, Singapore, Canada, South America, and elsewhere. Do we have it in the US? Well, we have limited versions of social housing in the United States. Examples would include limited equity co-ops, land trusts, nonprofit-run housing, and public housing. But these types of housing lack the key features that make Vienna's housing a model for the world, as well as making it one of the world's most livable cities. The key feature lacking in the US and in Jersey City is the strong role of government in ensuring that developers create housing for all income groups. Does Jersey City have any social housing? Well, Jersey City has one example of social housing that resembles the kind of housing we're talking about in Vienna. It's called Bayfront. The city bought the land and used its ownership as leverage to require that 35% of the housing built there be for low and middle income residents. But Bayfront is an exception in Jersey City, where the city's partnerships with developers has produced very little housing that would be affordable for most residents. However, today, several cities and states in the U.S. are taking steps to create social housing. Should Jersey City join them? What do you think?